to the Munchkin Minute, your bi-weekly look into some tabletop gaming news and more. I'm your host, Dan, the Board Game Man, and this is your news for late September 2024. So Essen Spiel is this coming weekend, so I thought I would do another kind of hybrid with top 5 and give my top 5 games I'm looking forward to in Essen of this year. And since there's a ton of Kickstarter this week, I'm going to focus mostly on that Essen list, one digital release, and a whole bunch of Kickstarters. So if you haven't heard of Essen, it's the largest tabletop convention in the world, and it's in Essen, Germany. Now, Gen Con is huge, and I believe Gen Con is considered the second biggest in the world, but it is the biggest in the US. But Essen is gigantic, even dwarfing Gen Con size. So here's my top 5 to check out at Essen. Now, obviously, there's a ton of great videos and lists out there that you can find that have all sorts of great games, from light to medium to heavyweight, from party games and also all sorts of things. But since Essen is in Germany, it tends to have a lot of the uber hotness of medium to heavyweight Euro games, and that's kind of what always catches my eye. And I'm not going to list some things that I kind of have mentioned in the Origins or Gen Con list, even though I'm going to mention a couple of things that I did mention about their kind of release coming up, but I'm not going to mention some that I covered a little bit more. So there's things like SETI, which is the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. That's the one from CGE, a nice heavier one. I believe I covered that in the past. And also Heroes of Might and Magic, which is supposed to be on either on display or the first edition will be at Essen, but that's currently on GameFound, and I covered that last episode. So definitely check that one out if you want to back that one. And those are obviously kind of good honorable mentions. In my list for Essen now, there's a caveat of one game that which technically, I believe it's out now. I was trying to find it in other releases and such, and I think originally I'd heard it was out in June or later, but I'm not sure. But I do have it. I have it in my hand and played it, but I couldn't find it on the Essen list. And this would be basically my number 1, but this is Star Trek Star Realms. Now, this would be my number 1 for Essen if I knew it was there for sure, but I did want to mention it to everyone to check it out because I've played it. I have it. I absolutely love it. I believe it's in the $20 to $25 range. It's certainly a reskin of the original Star Realms, but it is awesome. So if you like Star Realms like I do, you're going to love this one, especially if you kind of like Star Trek. Now, anyway, some people may complain about it being mostly just a re-theme or reskin, but it's still a lot of times. It's been Star Realms has been out for so long. My cards are just out. I didn't sleeve it, and I've had them forever. Plus, just having the theme on there, it's just amazing. So it kind of reminds me of Star Wars, a deck building game, because even though the game mechanics like these two are very familiar, and just having that art on the cards and kind of having that cool theme in there, it just makes the game a little bit more enjoyable. It is a little bit weird when you're kind of making your deck and you've got a lot of different factions together. Like, why would these be together? But you just got to put that out of your head because you're just playing Star Realms and you're playing with Star Trek universe and just enjoy all the ships and all the fun that comes along with that. So definitely check that one out for sure. So number 5, this is one I kind of mentioned as it was coming soon, but I did want to mention that it will be at Gen Con. It will be at Essen. Daitoshi. This is by Danny Garcia, 1 to 4 players by Devir, another heavyweight Euro. A really cool kind of wheel element to this game with that Euro kind of worker placement with a really cool kind of action wheel. Danny Garcia, of course, really good with these heavier weight Euros with Barcelona, Windmill Valley, or Aporta. So this one looks really good. I didn't write down the prices for any of these, but just consider that these are kind of bigger. All of these are kind of bigger, heavyweight Euros. So you're looking at anywhere from $40 to $80 US. But that is my number 5 there, Daitoshi. Number 4, Saltfjord, or Saltfjord, whatever you want to call it, SALTFJORD. Of course, I'll have a link to all of these in the show notes. Again, 1 to 4 players. I love that all of these have all these Euro games have solo plays to them because I love playing all these heavier Euros solo. Anyway, another one that's about an hour and a half to 2 hours, kind of that medium weight Euro. This is by Christian Almond Alsby and Elf Svensson. These designers basically are ones from Revive and Santa Maria and the Magnificent. So really good Euro games there. This one is a really cool kind of with Euro with dice, kind of dice placement game. It says it's set in a Norwegian fishing village and based on a dice drafting mechanism of Santa Maria, but the game has otherwise been completely redesigned. So very cool looking game. I know people didn't necessarily like Santa Maria as much, but this one looks like they've really overhauled it and made it look really good. Really cool stuff going on in this one with that theme as well. I really love dice drafting for sure. Number 3, you've got Minos, Dawn of the Bronze Age. This is by Board and Dice. This is by designer Stan Kordonsky. And I mentioned this that it was coming out, but this is, I'm going to cover a little more here. Did a few of the Valeria games as well as Dice Hospital, Lockup, Role Player Tale, Rurik, and Old West and Persero, which I really like kind of the way that he did those those games as well. This is a really cool Euro kind of, it's kind of worker placement in a way that as you're this kind of has this really cool theme where, a really cool mechanism where as you're removing things from your board, you're going to be getting extra kind of bonuses. Really cool, heavier weight Euro. Again, just really cool table presence. And this one is about, again, 1 to 4 players. So you've got that kind of solo version to it. And it's going to be probably about 2 to 3 hours with teaching and everything else. And again, a little bit more heavy with a really cool kind of design there. Again, you've got some dice rolling, you've got some area majority, and just some worker placement. So really looks great. Minos, Dawn of the Bronze Age. From early indications from people that I know that have played it, they told me that I would love it. So if you're like me and you like those kind of heavier weight Euros with some cool meat on them, you're going to like this one. And these next two are going to be no different than any of the ones I just mentioned. Number 2, Black Forest. This is by Uwe Rosenberg and Tito Lorenz. This is from 1 to 4 players. Again, medium to heavyweight Euro, going to play in about 2 hours. Now, what Black Forest does is it takes that kind of glass road wheel, kind of resource wheel, and puts it into another game. I know the game itself is not exactly the same as Glass Road, but it does kind of take that wheel. Now, what was cool about this wheel is you have resources that are on different sides of different kind of lines on the wheel, and as you increase a couple of these resources, the wheel will shift, therefore giving you more resources in another area of things that may be harder to get, and then also decreasing as it kind of shifts up. So you're kind of losing some, almost like automatically converting a couple of resources into something hard. A little bit hard to explain, but if you go to the link there, you'll see exactly what I mean. If you know what Glass Road is, then you'll know exactly what I mean. But the game itself looks very cool. Has some real cool kind of themey elements in the Black Forest. And of course, Uwe Rosenberg, can't go wrong there. Absolutely great designer there. And of course, again, a solo element that I can get on board with. This last one is, I think all 5 of these, I guess, had a 1 to 4 players and all have solo. This one here is probably the heaviest game of this designer's career, the heaviest game on this list, and it's just going to be gigantic. It's 1 to 4 players. It is called Civolution. This is by Stefan Feld and Deep Print Games. I absolutely love Stefan Feld, probably my number 1 favorite designer. This is going to be even heavier than Trajan or Aquasphere or any of the other ones, or even Bora Bora. Real heavyweight Euro, and it's gigantic. I don't think you're going to want to play this one at 4. I never really like heavy Euros at more than 4, but this one at 4 is going to be gigantic. Even my Watson game topper would probably be at the max playing it at 3 on that, because it is so much stuff going in there. It's obviously a Civ builder, and you're doing a really cool things with kind of the worker placement and kind of the way the card play goes, and you're kind of even investing into ages down the road as you're going into kind of this whole Civ is expanding. You can actually invest in your future in a Civ. Looks great. This is going to be a long one. It says 90 to 180, but it might even be longer than that. You're looking at probably 2 to 3 to 4 hours long, depending on your teaching. And maybe by the time you learn it, it won't be so bad, but it looks great. If you're a heavy Euro fan like I am, this is going to be something for you to really want to check out. Again, number 5, Daitoshi. Number 4, Saltfjord. Number 3, Minos, Dawn of Bronze Age. Number 2, Black Forest. And number 1, Civolution. So let's move on now to digital. So this is an interesting one because this is an early access. So this is called Vestiges, Fallen Tribes. Now I'll put a link to there. I think the early access is October 3rd. So let me stress, this is very much early access on October 3rd, but I know we have plenty of people in the community and listeners out there who love miniatures gaming. So, and kind of, that tactical minis experience. So I wanted to mention this one. You can actually play it VR or non-VR. I played it for about 30 minutes. It needs some work. So if it's free on day 1, you may want to check it out, or else you may want to wish list it and keep an eye on it, especially if early access isn't your thing. But at its core, if you do like early access and you like seeing how games kind of develop and you like this kind of gameplay, you're going to want to check it out on day 1. But again, at its core, you have points to play different units out. You have cards that you play the units onto the table. It's big, kind of reminds me of all those kind of big, Warhammer type games or kind of historical wargaming where you're putting the units out there. Now, I like the idea, and at its core, it needs to have some work, like I said, but before someone someone like me is more of a novice that's going to want to jump into them. It's going to want to see how it develops a little bit. But even though this is not 100% my thing, I did enjoy my gameplay. It needs a little, again, the tutorial and some of the other experience needs a little bit of work. But if you like the idea of kind of how it plays, you got to check it out. By all means, let me know what you think. You're putting your units out onto the board, and then your opponent at the same time, once you hit a button, their units will go out there, and then kind of auto battler style, they're going to go and they're going to fight. I don't know. I couldn't tell if there was any way for you to actually control it as it's going, but it does seem like a kind of 30 units out and more of an auto battler. But I know a lot of people love miniature gaming, so this may be something you want to check out. But again, very early on and very early access, but definitely check that one out if that's your sort of thing. Again, I don't know the price of that one. So this is Vestiges Fallen Tribes. Let's go over to Kickstarter, and I've got one game found, so there's a bunch here, so let me try and get through these as best I can. So I've got 2 launches that are coming on 10/1 that I'll have links to, but I don't have the pages to, but they're both ones that you're going to want to check out. First up, from Restoration Games is Unmatched Adventures, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. If you liked Unmatched and you liked the earlier Unmatched Adventures, Tales to Amaze, you're going to love this one because you got all 4 turtles in there. You can also switch them in and out. You can switch in any other, the Unmatched kind of factions to play this one. It looks amazing. And I talked to Justin on our last Geek All-Stars and some real good information on that show if you want to listen to him talk about it as well. But check that out on 10/1. Also, Bat Flip Dynasty. I got to play this one. This is going to be out on 10/1 as well. I think it's 10/1 or early October. This is a real fun dice drafting, kind of card drafting, dice rolling, baseball simulation by Scorelander Games. I've done a really good job keeping this kind of not too heavy, but not too light in the same instance. It's not the heavy kind of things like Lords of Baseball or some of the other heavier baseball sims, which is fine. Those games are great. This kind of distills it down to more of a filler gameplay, kind of 1 hour wonder, even less than that. We played this one in less than that, but it has a real fun kind of gameplay and managing your franchise. And also kind of as you're kind of simulating the games and managing your franchise, simulating how many trophies you're going to win over a season. Real fun game. I really like kind of the way the different cards interact with each other. A good tableau builder with kind of building your franchise there. So definitely check that one out, Bat Flip Dynasty. So next up, let's go into the ones that are active as of now. Positano, a game of bidding and building. This one is by Slugfest Games. A little bit different than what Slugfest normally does, but this has a really cool table presence. This one has about a week and a half to go. It is funded. You can get in on it for about $50. I really like this kind of 1 to 4 player Euro. It plays in a little bit less than an hour, kind of a 1 hour wonder. Has a really cool kind of, again, table presence as you're building up the pieces on the board as kind of the town builds straight up with these plastic buildings and kind of with the kind of the card play and kind of tile drafting bidding cards. It's got some auction bidding to it as well. But really cool game. I highly recommend checking this one out. Again, it is funded and it's got a great table presence. And I don't think that's for the price, that's a pretty good price for that right there. Again, that is Positano, a game of bidding and building. Next up, Nature. This is by North Star Games. If you like Evolution, the board game, you're going to love Nature. It just kind of brings 5 expansion modules with it as well. Another game which can you play it solo. Again, Evolution is a pretty cool game where you're kind of having your species and they're evolving and getting different traits, whether they be carnivores or herbivores, and just kind of evolving your different species over time and then interacting with other people or just trying to get more points and survive on the land. This being Nature is going to have a little bit more of an expansion to other biomes as well. This one, again, by North Star Games, you can get in it for about $30 for the digital big box, $39 for the regular game. You're going to have digital release. They're going to have a digital release with this one. It's going to be later next year or early in 26. So that might be a little bit of a ways for you to wait. But to get it the regular game, which is only $39 to get in on that, or you can get the big box with all those extra modules for $109. Again, a lot of people love Evolution. I had a fun time playing it, and that digital information was really good. I recommend that as well. But this one looks really cool. Again, about 3.5 weeks to go. Well funded for you there as well. Next up, this is kind of a bigger one. Been about 3 weeks to go in this one. This is Deliverance, Council of the Fallen expansion and reprint. I don't remember seeing this one when it did come out. I know it's kind of got a kind of a religious theme. I'm not, to me, whatever theme. I just look for more gameplay. So hopefully that theme doesn't turn anybody off, but it's got a pretty cool gameplay. We're story-based, kind of not quite your regular campaign sprawling game, but it does still have a story-based component to it. And it does look like they're adding to this kind of all the time. So it has an interesting looking thing, really cool. Again, another one that's huge, got a huge fan base for solo play. So I recommend that if you are a solo player, but it really has that pretty cool gameplay as well. The deluxe expansion needs the base game to play, but it does have the base game here in the campaign as well. You can get in there's a retailer pledge as well. So you have the deluxe expansion, or you can get in the base game, which is $89, or just the expansion for $79. Looks pretty cool. So again, about 3.5 weeks to go. Well funded there for you as well. And that is Deliverance Council of the Fallen expansion. Next up, man, this is just a heavy themed episode here. Next up, we have Speakeasy. This is Vital Lacerda and artwork by Ian O'Toole. About 3.5 weeks to go. Well funded. And this is by Eagle Griffin Games. Now, if you know Vital Lacerda, you know those are heavier games. So if you know the game and you like his games, you're going to be in on this one already. So it just has that heavier worker placement gameplay. You can get in on this one for about the Kickstarter edition for $124. And again, if you know the way Eagle Griffin is put out, like Inventions and some of the other Vital Lacerda these big type games, there's going to be a lot in the box. So you're going to get everything, value for your money there. Another 1 to 4 player. And he's been putting out some really good solo versions of his games. I know Inventions is one of the better solo versions of his games that is out there. So this is going to be a real cool one to get in on. Again, 3.5 weeks to go, almost $750,000 on this one. So this is going to be a real good one to get in on, especially if you like his games, because you're going to get a real good bang for your buck and a real solid game in that box. Next up, we're going way small. Finally, something a little bit lighter. Railroad Tiles. This is a tile placement game from the designers or the makers and designers from Railroad Inc., which was a roll and write. So this kind of takes the roll and write of Railroad Inc., which was light and a lot of fun, by the way, and puts it into kind of more of a tile placement drafting game. It's about 1.5 weeks to go. Well funded. This is put out by Horrible Guild, and this is about $40, I believe, or about it's about $45 US for the basic game. There's an advanced game, which you get a copy of Railroad Tiles, Kickstarter, free copy of the World expansion, and 3 other expansions of your choice. That is a little bit weird. There's a lot of stuff in there for $95, but it actually looks real cool. I actually think this is a real solid game. I'd probably recommend getting in this one for the $45 version, which is just a base game. But I love this type of game. Just a simple tile placement, all about putting down your railroad and playing it there, and then getting some goals to score some points. About 1.5 weeks to go. Well funded. There's a lot of money on Kickstarter right now. My God, this is going to be this is that peak right before the holidays where nobody really puts a lot of things on Kickstarter and nobody really backs a lot of things. But this is one of the last few that I'm going to put on there. And I think the next 2 are well funded as well. But anyway, that is Railroad Tiles. Next up, Scarabray and the Anarchy. So these are 2 new standalone games from Shem Phillips and Bobby Hill. This first one, Scarabray, is just it is resources, the Euro game. I think there's like 15 resources in this game. So you've got another nice Euro game, probably about a 1-hour wonder there as far as the game goes. It looks great. And I've seen some coverage of it, that it is a lot of fun managing those resources. Sounds a little bit lofty, but managing those resources seems very, very cool as well. And I love this sort of thing. The Anarchy is kind of another one of these kind of flip and writes. It's from Bobby Hill, the same designer that put out Hadrian's Wall. So it's very much going to be that kind of that next step. Hadrian's Wall was good to me. I thought it kind of overstayed its welcome as far as the weight goes. Kind of would rather play things like, Three Sisters or some of the other Motor City ones, which I know they took some inspiration from, or some of the other heavier, Fleet the Dice game and such, or Motor City. Some of those I kind of like more. Maybe this kind of tightens things up a little bit more, but this is kind of a heavier kind of flip and right, the Anarchy. It is definitely one I would love to check out. So would want to definitely check that one out as far as the backing goes. You can get into Scarabray for about $47 US. The Anarchy also about $47 US. I believe you can get both games for about $94 US, which would make sense. Sometimes they'll give you, sometimes they'll give you a little bit of a break there, but it doesn't look like too much of a break. But they both look like solid games, especially if you like things from Bobby Hill and Shem Phillips. But that is about a week and a half to go. Well funded. That is Scourbray and the Anarchy. And finally, in Kickstarter, we've got Dungeons of the Oak Dell. This one is funded. It's going to be one you want to get in right away. This is from Two Acorns Game. This is kind of an interesting one, kind of a roll and write. But the reason why I thought it was interesting roll and write, because it's a roll and write dungeon crawl. But the way you're rolling your dice and using it and kind of crossing things out on these kind of pieces of paper is how your attacks go. And depending on how you hit somebody, that's going to be kind of the damage you do in these different fights. I thought that was really kind of interesting. And I did like the dungeon delving, kind of the way it does there. So the full game is just $14 to get in on that one. So if you like rolling rights or flipping rights that are kind of interesting in the way they play, this is going to be for you. Dungeons of the Oak Dell. And finally, another one of these gigantic ones up on GameFound where it's kind of kitchen sink, where there's a million things in his box, all sort. And of course, it's a Dan game because it's campaign or one shot or campaign game. It was about 2 weeks ago. This is called Story of Many by Haunted Mill Games, a cooperative fantasy adventure for 1 to 4 players. It says with 400,000 words of adventure text and limitless possibilities for creating and advancing your own character in a brave world filled with profound lore and hard choices. You're creating a hero. You're going on these adventures. It really looks like one of these real fun kind of almost, I want to call it like a lifestyle game because you're going to be doing almost like Frosthaven and Gloomhaven. It's going to take a while to get through this one. But again, they talk about how you can play this one shot or kind of the grand play. But there's so much in this box, what there should be, because it's about $300 US for the all-in pledge. But there's a lot of different pledges. You can get the standard pledge, which is only about $100. So definitely check that one out. If you like this sort of game like I do, this is going to be right up your alley, which is, again, Story of Many, a really solid campaign-looking game. So thanks for joining me today. If you see any news you think I'd like to feature, shoot me a message at GeekJockDan on Twitter. And of course, on the Major Spoilers Discord, where I love to chat all about board games. Let me know what you want to see coming from Essen, or if any of these, all these millions of Kickstarters that I mentioned, I'm sure I missed a few. Let me know if there's any of those you're in on, or you're looking forward to, or if you've even played them yet. So also, please check out MajorSpoilers.com for great content by Steve and the rest of the Major Spoilers crew, and check out the Geek All Stars podcast, which is the show that I do. As always, I'm Dan, the Board Game Man, and we'll see everyone in a couple weeks for another Munchkin Minute.
This podcast is copyright 2024 by Major Spoilers Entertainment, LLC.